or whatever you want to call it, get her 2 cents in. Sure, anything. I'm open-minded. Anything is possible. However, the likelihood of something like that happening is so remote, at least in my book. I mean, the government's about hiding things and controlling information. They're not about trotting it out and seeing if anybody notices. In this case, I don't see that as even being a possibility, although I could be wrong. We don't have the mummy to confirm one way or another through DNA tests and other types of tests to determine whether it's just a little Indian, Native American human baby that died an unfortunate early death, or whether it's truly an off-planet intelligence that somehow became desiccated and ended up on a glass shelf in a museum. I don't know. I guess when you get caught red-handed, sometimes you come up with the most outlandish counter arguments and explanations to try to wiggle your way out of potentially defrauding people out of millions and millions of dollars. So I wonder how much Linda's getting paid to help sign off on this particular scenario.
Well, I would like to say we're not accusing her of anything. Maybe she's just glomming on to this, feeling there's some connection or some traction to create a conspiracy theory.
I don't think she'd glom onto something like that unless there was something in it for her.
All right. Well, I don't know. I don't know Linda Moulton Howe. We've asked her to come on the show on several occasions. A couple of times she said yes and then doesn't seem to be able to close the deal. The other thing about this that always bothered me is if you stick this thing in some kind of public setting, how do you account for the fact that there's always the danger that some kind of alien life form would bring with it alien viruses? I'm not talking about computer viruses. I mean alien viruses, infections. Certainly if you recovered a body like this, the first thing you would do is put on protective gear, put it in a place that's safe, secure. You'd hide it away until you're 100% sure, or as sure as you can be, that nobody is being infected by something.
Remember what happened with their first lunar astronauts? When they came back, they went directly into quarantine.
That's right. And that's our own people going to our own satellite, the moon. But we don't know what's over there. It may be that ET is related to us in some way, and maybe therefore their viruses are compatible with ours. We don't know. We don't know if they disinfect themselves before they come. We have no idea. So why would we take the chance? Why would we leave these things out in the open? It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, just think of the scene in the movie E.T., where they find evidence that this kid has a little alien being, and you see all these scientists coming there with their hazmat suits.
Well, that's Hollywood, but
there's a reality to that.
Well, especially if it's true. You read some of the scuttlebutt, the people, I don't know where they could come up with most of this stuff, but people claim that these little grays, don't eliminate bodily waste the way we do. They secrete it from their skin like sweat. And if that's the case, I wouldn't want to shake hands with one. It's like, you need a full body wipe down before you start getting all friendly with people.
Well, I wouldn't want to touch them anyway, not because of the way in which they secrete waste products. It is, again, the alien viruses. I'm not a clean nut, you understand, but I'd like to be clean. I just think that the very basis of this makes no sense whatever. I don't know if there is any way that people who paid for the tickets or got the online video can actually sue and claim fraud. I think at the end of the day, they could always say this is entertainment. I haven't seen the terms and conditions of the offer. Maybe buried in there is some language that the lawyers set up designed to relieve them of any possible liability. It might be in there. I don't know if anybody has actually looked. It certainly would be in the Spanish language, so I suppose I could submit it to my son, who has got advanced degrees in Spanish, and let him look at it if it's available and see what the terms and conditions are. But of course, the American pay-per-view, that's another thing. I think just not getting good reception, getting buffering problems or loss of signal, that is sufficient to say, I'm not paying. I want a charge back. I'm not doing it.
Well, do we have any firm numbers from the actual attendance to the live event and the streaming numbers? Do we have any solid numbers?
Red Pill Junkie said between 6,500 and 7,000 at the live event. I've heard figures all over the place for the pay-per-view. I don't think anyone outside the organization that ran it or Jaime Maussan or those people knows the real number.
Do we have a name of the company that actually did the streaming event?
I'm sure we could look it up. I haven't bothered.
Yeah, well, that's something that we could put out there for our listeners, especially anybody down in IT, down in Mexico. If you could do a little digging for us, we'd love to get the name of the company that provided the cameras and provided the switcher and the conversion for the live streaming event. And perhaps we could locate somebody that could firm up some of our numbers.
Yes, indeed. Our guest this week is Ryan Skinner, who's written 2 more books about Skinwalker called Tales of the Skinwalker, a collection of stories from Skinwalker Ranch and Beyond. That's the first book. The other one is called Skinwalker Ranch, the UFO Farm. Okay, so I guess they're growing little UFO beings. They're growing little ETs to go into museum cases. Yeah, I'm joking here. Ryan Skinner is always a fun guy to talk to, and we'll hear from him next with Gene and with Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Hi, my name is Scott Fuchs, teacher and rowing coach for over 14 years. I was sluggish, overweight, on prescription drugs, and only 30-something. Fortunately, I was referred to Dr. Z, and happy to say Dr. Z's all-natural protocols over a consistent course resolved my health issues. I'm in the best shape of my life, and most importantly, on 0 medications.
I'm Dr. Zdanowski, author of Evology, trained as a primary care physician, surgical manipulation under anesthesia, expert in nutrition, diet, weight loss, immune system, and I specialize in chiropractic. My 15 years of professional experience has taught me the 4 keys to vibrant health: a balanced musculoskeletal system, an integrated nervous system, a flowing lymphatic system, and a body filled with over 90 essential nutrients. This has been a secret too long. Actualize your potential, reverse disease. Call me, Dr. Z. 201-945-1177, 201-945-1177, evolyourself.com.
Hi, John Hubner from Midas Resources. Are you tired of watching your hard-earned assets dwindle away? As government spending is out of hand and the Federal Reserve is creating in excess of $20 billion a week, are you tired of stockbrokers gambling away your hard-earned money? Is this market a setup for a crash greater than 1987? Too many of today's policies resemble those that led to the collapse of 1929. This is John Hubner, and that was me in 2007. And we all know what happened when the subprime credit bubble burst. By March 2009, the dollar lost 50% of its value. The entire U.S. banking system was on the verge of collapsing. Like all financial problems of the past, is history about to repeat itself? Call me, John Hubner, at 1-800-686-2237, extension 129, before it's too late to protect yourself. Will the oncoming catastrophe take all private IRAs, 401ks with it? There is a way to protect your hard-earned assets. Call me, John Hubner, at 1-800-686-2237, extension 129.
Yuvia needed financing to grow her restaurant business, but her banks simply didn't understand.
I was frustrated.
Yuvia found On Deck Business Loans.
On Deck did it for me. I called on Saturday, and I had $50,000 in my account on Monday morning.
How about the terms?
Incredibly easy. It doesn't mess with your cash flow.
On Deck changed everything.
This company, On Deck, is going to be there for me.
Was it a good move?
I'm looking to increase sales probably 30%.
Been in business for at least a year with $100,000 plus in revenue? On Deck can get you $5,000 to $250,000 in as little as 1 business day. And they're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau.
On Deck has opened up so many doors for me now. Truly, the sky is the limit. I'm excited.
Apply now at OnDeckLending.com or call 800-326-5430. 800-326-5430. 800-326-5430. Loan subject to lender approval.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Before we join Ryan Skinner about his 2 newest books about Skinwalker, I want to give something away. Actually, Chris wants to give something away. He wants to give you a copy of his paradigm-changing book, Stalking the Tricksters. But you got to do something. You know, there's always a catch to these offers. It's a very simple catch. All you have to do is subscribe to 1 year or more of Paracast Plus. That's our premium service where we give you the ad-free version of the Paracast with a higher quality audio, and also our exclusive Paracast podcast called After the Paracast, just for people who subscribe to Paracast Plus. We have a really cheap plan, $5 a month, but if you subscribe to 1 year or 5 years, we give you the ebook version of Stalking the Tricksters from Chris O'Brien. To find out more about how you get the ad-free shows, just go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. Check it out, sign up, and you get instant gratification. We send out the books, by the way, in batches by email. So it might take a day or two for those. But when you sign up, you're joining instantaneously. So anyway, Ryan Skinner has been on the show in the past to talk about Skinwalker Ranch. And you've got a pair of new books, Ryan. Do you actually have time to have a life after writing 2 more books?
It's a pretty busy life between work and the books and everything else going on, and father of 2 children. So no, not much of a life, but it's a life I enjoy.
Okay, let's look at the 2 books and maybe discuss here what you're focusing on. So we have one here, Tales of the Skinwalker, a collection of stories from Skinwalker Ranch and beyond. Now, before I ask you about the stories and how you collected them, what do you mean by beyond?
And by beyond, it is somewhat limiting just focusing on Skinwalker Ranch. I found I had a larger pool of stories to collect from when I started focusing on the Four Corners area. That's what beyond is referring to.
All right, why are we so interested in Skinwalker Ranch? Because this is something that we've discussed in the Paracast a number of times, and it's a subject that never dies. People respond to it from different vantage points, either being knowledgeable about what's going on or just curious about something strange. So let's go back to the beginning for those who haven't heard your previous appearances in the Paracast. How did you become involved with the things that are going on at Skinwalker?
I guess it all comes back to an incident, and this was all quite unexpected. I'd been driving through Utah with my wife. I think it was around 2006, 2007, and we were going to Vegas actually to get married. We just happened to be going through the southern part of Utah on I-70 and had what I can only describe as a close encounter with what is either a skinwalker, an alien, an unknown intelligence, I guess, is the only way I can describe it, which really altered my course in life and fueled my interest in this topic. Where the incident occurred was about 50 miles to the south as a crow flies from Skinwalker Ranch. And when I returned home and did some research, I kept coming across, what made this location so important. I found out about the ranch and Colm Kelleher and George Knapp's book on Skinwalker Ranch. And I think I was just hooked at that point. And from there, I really wanted to learn more. I've always been a little fascinated by the topic and all things paranormal, but to have such a close encounter just validated all of what I had always hoped to be true. Actually turned out to be a far more mysterious adventure than I ever could have imagined.
Now, the skeptic would say, well, if you were wishing and hoping something like this would come to pass, maybe that kind of generated perceptions of what happened to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I guess I'm at a point now, I care whether people believe or don't believe. It doesn't matter to me. But what is important is you do manifest your own reality. Does that mean you can manifest something false and create a delusion where you believe something to be not true to be true? Perhaps, I guess someone could. But I do know one thing for sure is if you don't go out and seek these sort of things, usually they will not find you. And I really walked a lonely and difficult path in doing my research over the years to validate what just because you have hopes that something's real, I doesn't necessarily mean that I had any proof that any of it existed. And that experience to me at that time convinced me I was onto something. And I finally had found a hot spot that I could sink my teeth into.
So what kind of reality check do you assign yourself here if you're trying to avoid the self-fulfilling prophecy?
True. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. The reality check is, what's interesting is when I bring people out to Skinwalker Ranch, a lot of the time they're either believe, you seem to fall in one camp or the other. You're either a believer or a skeptic. And both of them, however, seem to jump at the smallest noise in the night or light in the sky. Oh, that light in the sky, it's got to be a UFO. And I actually turn out to be the biggest skeptic. I know exactly what I'm looking for. And what I'm looking for is something that can't be explained by any rational means. And it's very rare when that event happens. In other words, a light in the sky is really just that, a light in the sky. Suddenly a light on the ground materializing in front of you and something coming out of that light, that falls more in the unexplained category. And that holds my intrigue a lot more. So I guess
it kind of reminds me of the Jesse Ventura shoot when we were up there with sure. Sean Stone and Ty Ventura, and we had the light show up in an area that there were no apparent roads or driveways or anything, but this light, those guys were just, they thought this was the second coming of the UFO gods or something. And I remember you and I are looking, going, yeah, it's a light. What's the big deal? Oh, yep, it jumped up in the air a little bit.
I remember being out there, and Tyrell or Sean or both of them, they were looking at passing airplanes in the sky. And, Ryan, I think we got a UFO over there. And I don't think they were testing me. I think they were jumping at the slightest bump in the night.
Yeah. And, yeah. Even though on the ground and in the restaurant or away from the scene, so to speak, they tended to be a lot more circumspect and
absolutely
and skeptical and objective. But as soon as you get out there in the dark, that tends to, I think, color your experience a little bit. And being someone that's been up there as many times as you have, if you had jumped up and down and acted all excited, I would not have taken your work as seriously as I do. Just simply because I've been in this situation myself so many times where, sure, it was an anomalous light. It didn't appear to be doing anything particularly spectacular, but, and it was in an area where there shouldn't have been any lights, and it was acting in an unusual manner. But again, it was just a light in the sky. Low to the ground, but a light in the sky, essentially. And if you put a big exclamation point behind any of those types of experiences that you have, no one would take you seriously, because that would really take the gravitas away from the important events that you've described in your books and the events that others have described that I think bear some scrutiny. And I think that there is something going on up there. That's why we've had you on the show, why I've been so interested in the case. And those initial experiences that draw us to a particular case or to a location, I think are very, very important and have a lot of deeper meanings.
More deeper meanings with Gene, Chris, and Ryan Skinner. You're in
the Paracast.
We are America's largest independently owned communications network, GCN.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the Earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Freudian phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to Mr. UFO at webtv.net. That's Mr. UFO at webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
Healthy elimination is essential to high energy, a cheerful mood, and prevention of disease. Some of the founders of our modern holistic health thinking state that disease begins in a toxic colon. A toxic intestinal tract is the foundation for virtually all degenerative disease, and a clean and well-moving intestinal tract is the foundation of health.
I just want to say that you folks have an amazing product. I've taken whey protein products for years, and I've never noticed the results I have with your product. I've suffered with bouts of constipation most of my life. Within a few days of taking One World Whey, I noticed a dramatic change. Also, in the past few years, I've experienced symptoms associated with diabetes. I feel horrible when I've had too much sugar, and I've been getting the foot pain as well. But I've noticed in the past week or so, I'm not feeling bad anymore, and the foot pain is gone. I'm just finishing up a 5-pound tub I ordered and just got off the phone ordering more. I love your product. Thank you.
Call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit oneworldway.com. That's oneworld.com.
For over 5 years, you've been hearing about the Berkey Guy, so you may know a few things about him. For example, you are well aware of the superior quality and effectiveness of Berkey water filters and accessories. But did you know the Berkeys have had independent lab tests done to prove just how effective they are? It's true, and he can email you the test results. Just visit goberkey.com. You may also know that the Berkey Guy has helped tens of thousands of people get better prepared. Now here's something you may not know. GoBerkey.com has amazing specials and deals all the time on a wide variety of survival and preparedness products, most ready to ship same day. Visit the Berkey Guy at GoBerkey.com and be sure to click the red Products on Sale Now button. You can always call toll-free 877-886-3653. Again, that's 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com, home of the Berkey Guy.
The human body is extraordinary, despite all the stress we inflict upon it. Thousands of people across the country use an extremely effective product to help their bodies stay balanced. It's Heart and Body Extract, an all-natural herbal formula designed to help maintain healthy blood pressure, clean arteries, promote good circulation, and balance cholesterol. Heart and Body Extract, along with good nutrition and exercise, can give you a life free from pain, sickness, and fear. Recapture your youthful vitality and experience your body healing itself with the aid of Heart and Body Extract. Learn more and read scores of testimonials from satisfied customers at heartandbody.com. Heart and Body Extracts offers a lifetime guarantee with no price increase in over 14 years. For free info, call 866-295-5305 now. That's 866-295-5305 or heartandbody.com. Distributor inquiries welcome. 866-295-5305.
This is Jacques Vallée. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
You know, somebody suggested by email the other day that instead of Chris doing the Paracast, or we have one of our guests doing it, we have our listeners record those stingers, the Paracast, with sound effects, with their own voices, doing imitations, whatever. And we take a selected sample. And the ones we use, maybe we give them a little gift of something or other.
I like that idea.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that's a good one. We should get a thread going.
Okay, we'll set up a forum thread at forum.theparacast.com to explain this, where we will run listener stingers on the show and give you credit for it and give you a prize of some sort. We'll work out the price stuff later. Right now, we have Ryan Skinner joining Gene and Chris. We're talking about the mysteries of Skinwalker. Now, we should point out very carefully here that when you go to the ranch, you're not going on the property. It's private property, and you're not allowed. So officially, you can't get in there, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Bigelow's got of course, it's monitored 24/7 by what used to be a team of ex-paramilitary guards that drive up from Nevada, from this compound, Nevada, that watch the property. Nobody's allowed on the property. You will be arrested if you're on the property. There's still some places around there to get a good vantage or experience something paranormal from. And the phenomenon is not just by any means located on Skinwalker Ranch, despite that having a catchy name and a good slogan. It's the entire basin. It's pretty hot.
Now, you can't officially ever say you trespassed, right?
I don't know. I've kind of danced around that issue for long enough, especially on this radio show for quite some time. I don't think there's any confusion on that topic. I've been over the fence before. I have. And I, again, don't recommend that experience to anyone else out there for a lot of different reasons.
Now, when you say they have security guards there, is it anything like the security guards you see in the movies? These big, brawny people who have nondescript accents from different countries, and you don't know what military they work for. They're mercenaries.
I don't want to create an illusionary perspective of their attire and who they are. I mean, they're people just like you and me, and I'm actually friends with some of them, oddly. But they do all hold a top secret clearance. They come from a wide variety of backgrounds, mostly a military background with, again, the top secret clearance from the Air Force. A lot of them had guarded nuclear silos or had some job of high responsibility. And the other ones come from a police background, either law enforcement from the sheriff's office or holding detective positions. A lot of the actual researchers. There's two different types of people out there. There's the guards and then the researchers, which are different divisions that Bass brings to play out there. I don't know. They're all pretty much in shape, and I'm not sure all of them necessarily are big believers in the paranormal. So they're looking for some action out there, and I really don't want to be the target for them.
Most of the time, it's 99% of the time, I'm sure it is just tedium and boredom. Mm-hmm. And boy, somebody popping over the fence would, make their month.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. Yeah, that's the first excitement they've had in a while. You bet.
The caveat again is don't try to be a hero and get on the ranch and expect to have some sort of life-altering paranormal experience, because you might have a life-altering, knee in your back, face in the dirt, cuffs on, hustled off in an SUV to the local sheriff's office. So really play it smart. And I think, Brian, you brought up a very important point. There is a history of unexplained, unusual, fairly amazing activity from the whole area there. It doesn't matter where you go in the Uinta Basin. That area is rife with examples of all kinds of different sort of so-called paranormal events that go all the way back into the 50s and probably earlier. A good book to read before anyone goes out there would be The Great Utah UFO Display by Frank Salisbury and Junior Hicks. You need to do your research, get up to speed. There's plenty of areas around Vernal, around the southern parts of the Uinta Mountains, public land, areas south of Bonanza there into the gas and oil fields, areas north of Sago Canyon off Highway 70 into the very southern part of the Ute Indian Reservation. It is an Indian reservation. You do need to go through proper protocols to do camping and, long stays out there. So you have to, contact tribal authorities and have some good other activity to to be doing. If you tell them you're going out there UFO hunting or trying to find skinwalkers, chances are you're not going to get very far with, the local native authorities. So have some other, thing that you are doing out there. alongside your other more exotic pursuits, shall we say.
Pretend that you're just a tourist.
You're looking for a rare purple flower, or
Bird watching. That's one I've used.
Whatever it might be, just make sure that it doesn't include anything that might get a negative reaction from tribal authorities. This is an Indian reservation. You're in a sovereign nation. Don't forget that. The Skinwalker Ranch, so-called, the Sherman Ranch or the Bigelow Ranch now, is private property. It is not part of the Indian reservation. It is surrounded by Indian reservation, as is all the private property that's located in that particular little valley there south of Fort Duchesne. So be careful, be safe, be sanitary.
Ooh, I don't want to take that anywhere. But the key is here, don't drop the hamburger wrappers, the stuff that you get your Burger Kings in. You don't want to do that. You want to be filthy. You have to show respect for the property. But here's the point. We have, I suppose, some number of people who decide that they want to see what's going on. They're into the paranormal, UFOs, and maybe it's for kicks, maybe it's for serious research. I don't know. What are the things that people tend to see that are mistaken for something unusual? Is it the same stuff we see anywhere else, a light in the sky or something like that?
Again, mostly airplanes, lights in the sky. I have very little interest for any sort of story about lights in the sky, other than a daytime light in the sky. I'm again more interested in seeing lights in the ground right in front of me than I am.
Right. Structured craft are cool too in the daytime.
Absolutely.
Physical evidence in the environment. I've seen some incredible, what appear to be like robot tracks that punched 18 inches into hardpan and went across a mining road about 30 miles southeast of the ranch. That there was just no way I could explain what the heck it was. It went up probably a 35 degree slope of loose road fill, and then stamped across the road about 4.5 feet between strides, big circular punches like some robot with 12-inch wide pads that have been punched into the ground with great force or weight. Those are the types of things that interest me. Physical evidence, swaths of trees mowed down for no apparent reason. I've seen south of the ranch there. Of course, this is an area where there's a lot of mining, exploration for gas and oil. So you always have to take into consideration possible, development of these types of resources. But for the most part, you always have to have your eyes open for anything that strikes you as unusual. Ryan's had some experiences that go a little bit off the scale in that department. For some of our first-time listeners to you, Ryan, why don't you give us a little bit more of a sense of how you were hooked into many, many return trips up to that area. And you're coming all the way from Wisconsin, correct?
Before we do that, let's do a quick break, and then you could give us that background information. A reminder, folks, go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com to learn how to get a free copy of Chris O'Brien's Stalking the Tricksters. Join up the Paracast Plus and hear our other radio show after the Paracast, plus.theparacast.com. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
A little right, a little left, but always independent-minded. The Genesis Communications Network, GCN.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com. TaxAct.com.
If the IRS has garnished your paycheck or seized money from your bank account, you need to get professional tax help now. Fast action is required to put a halt to these aggressive IRS collection tactics. You can count on the knowledgeable team of tax professionals at Wall & Associates. With over 30 years of experience, Wall & Associates has settled the tax problems of thousands of taxpayers for a small fraction of what they owed. For a free face-to-face consultation, call 1-800-425-4610 to put a wall between you and the IRS. 1-800-425-4610 or look for us on the web at wallandassociates.net. We solve tax problems. If you hire Wall & Associates today, you'll never have to talk to the IRS again. To stop the levies and seizures today, take action now. Call Wall & Associates at 1-800-425-4610. Wall & Associates, 1-800-425-4610. Based on actual cases, results may vary, not a solicitation for legal services.
The Genesis Communications Network is one of America's premier broadcasters of captivating talk radio. We thank you for listening. Now, just imagine, there are thousands of people who are just as passionate about radio as you are. But what you may not realize is how easy and affordable it is to advertise with us. Radio commercials for your business could be heard on hundreds of radio stations across the U.S. every day. We can help you by creating an effective radio advertising campaign for your company. From script writing to producing your commercial, just like the one you're listening to right now. No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
Hi, this is Steve Sanchez, and based on a recent study, it was found that 57 million Americans had legal issues over the last 12 months, but only 60% of those studied sought out the services of a lawyer. Why? In a nutshell, affordability. Well, my friends at Legal Shield have created a solution that can help you not if, but when you need an attorney. For as little as $17 per month, Legal Shield will provide you unlimited access to qualified attorneys at an accomplished law firm for advice and counsel on legal issues, no matter how serious or trivial. For over 40 years and with 1.4 million families across North America, Legal Shield can help you, the loyal GCN listener. Representatives are standing by now to answer your questions, so call them now at 1-855-340-SAVE. That's 1-855-340-7283, or visit them at lsprotection.com. That's lsprotection.com.
Results will vary from case to case.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
Ryan Skinner, you were asked the overarching question there by Chris O'Brien. What's your response?
Guessing he's looking for some of the more dramatic experiences that I've had over there that kind of keep drawing me back. Perhaps the most dramatic is I had gone to the ranch to a position where I was overlooking the ranch. It's about a quarter of a mile away. It's a great vantage point. I had been there multiple times before. We were pretty lucky to get out there early where the sun was just starting to set. And on the fields and above the ranch house, we saw these glowing, pulsating balls of light, or as I reflect on it now as the years have passed, I think balls of plasma is what I believe they were. And they were moving around. They seemed intellectually controlled. Some of them would circle the house. Others seemed to march down the fields in groups. As we were watching, we were recording the entire event. I mean, I felt finally validated that all my research had been validated. I finally had the proof I was looking for. I knew it wouldn't be enough, but I thought it was something tangible that I could provide the community with that would be debated hotly for years to come. Because it wasn't just a light in the dark. This was during the day, and things were pretty damn clear.
Did you get video of this, by the way? I've never seen that.
No, we didn't get video. I mean, of course, as all the skeptics would say. But two separate researchers, myself and another researcher, both recording two separate cameras. Later go over the incident here in a little bit, but as we checked our video cameras later in the night, it was not only erased, it was as if neither one of us had even hit the record button on our cameras. I get to my theory as to maybe why or how that had happened. But it does play into, there was another incident on Skinwalker Ranch where they were, NIDS at that time had recording devices set up. And as they were recording the fields, they believe some sort of entity ripped all the wires out of one of the cameras. And the time it took for that to occur, the damage to the camera and the vandalism, it was, they said, less than a second, a fraction of a second for it to all have occurred. And for that to happen, I mean, literally, almost this pole itself and all the wires had to be dismantled. And it would have taken somebody, almost a team of people, several minutes to do that sort of damage with tools and everything else. So,
filming that camera that never picked up.
Right. And that's how they had come to that determination. This had happened between, between the shutter, between the frames of the camera. I mean, it was just unbelievable how quickly this had happened, as if time had stopped and something had intervened. But as we were watching these balls of light, several of them branched off from the group and actually started heading our direction. There was a lighted pole behind the house, and they whizzed up to the top of the pole, which had a transformer on it. They did some sort of interaction with the transformer. I have no idea what, and it blew up the power to the ranch house. Suddenly, all the lights at the ranch house went out. I mean, again, it was starting to get dusk at this point. At that point, the guards flew out of the shed. They obviously lost power. They have a guard shack right also on the ranch property next to the house. So they spilled out of their guard house or their little, I don't know, it's like whatever it is, their shack, and went over and started playing with the fuse box, trying to get the power back on. As he came out of the guard shack, what always blows my mind to this day is one of the balls of light was trailing the guard. I mean, literally 5 to 10 feet right behind him, which at that time, I couldn't tell whether they're working with these balls of light and this is some sort of government conspiracy, or if he really couldn't see it and had no idea it was there, yet it was. And from my vantage point, I don't know if it's a dimensional aspect or what, I could see it. They eventually got the power back to the ranch house, and as they did, again, 3 of these balls of light branched off, started making their way towards us. I like to capture and research whatever's going on. I don't want to be a part of the process of what's going on. I didn't want to be some aliens experiment. Unfortunately, that was starting to happen as these things were getting closer and closer to us. They would power up, get really big, and then I describe it like powering down. Their intensity of the light would just power down to nothing, an infinitesimal point of light to winking out completely. There was no structure behind these things as they got closer. There was no metallic ball or drone. It was really just a ball of plasma that would wink into and out of existence. Eventually, they were above our heads. And I knew that because suddenly they materialized above the heads. They powered up and flashed a really bright light down on us. And again, years later, I theorized at that time that's when they had messed with our video equipment is my only guess as to what had happened. The lights then landed, and I'd like to pretend to be the brave explorer, but I mean, I was really shaking in my boots, to say the least. I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't want to be anywhere near the ranch because I knew something would be coming, and something did come. I finally got the courage to peek over the rock's edge, and from this glowing, pulsating light, this black mist, this materialistic, I mean, when I say mist or smoke, this is a mist or smoke that had substance to it. It was darker than the night sky. It was now getting pretty dark out than the night sky around us. It was swirling around, taking shapes, tendrils of it lashing out. And from that, it took the shape of a wolf, which then walked directly towards us, sat down no more than 5 feet away in a somber position and just stared intently at us.
Now, you say a wolf, like a traditional wolf or what we call a werewolf? Jeez, what kind of wolf?
Well, definitely I wouldn't call it a werewolf. I'd call it a gray, mangy gray, kind of a scrawny wolf with a really long, bushy tail. dark eyes. The eyes weren't glowing. The wolf did not walk on 2 feet. It never spoke, and it just it was not it also was not a dog. Up here in Wisconsin, we have wolves, which they actually do not even have wolves in Utah, which makes it even more interesting. They've been extinct for some time.
It wasn't like one of the dogmen. It wasn't smoking a cigarette.
No, it wasn't smoking a cigarette, and I smoked at that time, and I probably would have asked for it for one. I was so nervous at seeing that. No, it was not, and I know the story you're talking about. But which to me makes it all the more mysterious and real. The wolf sat there for a good 5 minutes. We didn't know what to do, and it eventually made the choice for us by turning around, walked behind a rock, a large rock, and vanished. We looked behind the rock; there was nothing there. And from where the wolf was, now walked. It's kind of silly, but a porcupine walked up and sat down to the same exact spot where the wolf was, and did the same solemn, statuesque kind of planted itself right there and just stared at us.
Well, I don't remember that detail. Wow. Were there any tracks from it? Did it leave physical tracks? Any sort of trace evidence?
I wish the biggest problem with Skinwalker Ranch, again, and especially what we were doing at that time, which I haven't done any trespassing since, is you're already walking on a razor's edge, being out there, as you know. And right after this occurred, we heard the guards were walking down the path directly towards us. We could hear their CBs and them talking together. So we packed everything up pretty quick because they started, at this point, they were jogging up towards our position. So we packed everything up and got out of there. Hightailed it out of there for safety.
They probably ended up blaming it on you. You became government agents that were putting holographic technology to work and freaking them out.
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah. No, I don't know, but I do. Years later, in my second book, what is it? Skinwalker Ranch, No Trespassing. I did obtain access to some of the guard files, and oddly, that night there is not an incident of the encounter. So I'm still perplexed and confused by that encounter. But that's one of many. I mean, to me, that was one of the most dramatic things that ever happened and left a lasting impression on me. And I'm always looking for that experience again, I guess.
So what would you do this time? Put a 38 slug between its eyes, or?
That's fine. I mean, thoughts like that really were going through my head at the time. I mean, do I try to bash this thing over the head? Do I pet it? Do I communicate with it? I remember trying to talk to it, but there was no response.
So the key here is that this thing never displayed any evidence of hostile intent. I'm going to ask you more about that in our next segment because we got a lot to talk about. 2 new books out from Ryan Skinner, who I guess at this point has written more books about Skinwalker Ranch than anyone.
Thank you.
How about that? Think about that. And we'll talk more about that in our next segment. With Gene and with Chris, you're in.
Ooh, the Paracast.
Independently leading the way for the nation. Compelling talk for every political persuasion. We are GCN.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state in back taxes, you know they'll never stop coming after you. With bank levies, wage garnishments, they'll even seize your home or business. The good news? A government program for tax debt forgiveness. It's called the Fresh Start Initiative.
I'm Paul Sibley with U.S. Tax Shield. We can help navigate the new laws, get you protected, and resolve your tax issues permanently.
Call the experts at U.S. Tax Shield now for your free consultation and get a guaranteed quote to resolve your case. Call 800-436-6451. That's 800-436-6451.
It's a terrifying thought. You're trapped somewhere without a radio and no access to GCN shows. A doctor's office, the DMV, your mother-in-law's.
Come on, stay for dinner.
That's what makes the newly redesigned GCN Live app a true lifesaver. Listen to your favorite GCN hosts and programming on your smartphone, wherever you are. Download yours free on iTunes or Google Play. The new GCN Live app. Don't leave home without it.
Are you suffering from EP? The symptoms include fraudulent charges to your credit card. Your subway card says it's empty, but you bought it yesterday. Someone's been in your hotel room, but the desk clerk says they only show you entering the room. These are signs of EP. Electronic pickpocketing. Payment cards, transit cards, even hotel room keys use a radio chip, so you can just wave your card at the register, the turnstile, or your hotel room door. But what's convenient for you is also convenient for thieves, waving scanners to electronically pickpocket you without even touching you. The good news is there's a cure. ID Stronghold has created leather wallets and clutches that have built-in EP protection. Layers of shielding material cleverly concealed in a beautiful leather wallet that stops the symptoms of EP. Go to idstronghold.com now and get the cure. idstronghold.com. Warning, ID Stronghold wallets could lead to feelings of safety and security, comfort in crowds, and euphoria. If you experience these emotions, immediately inform your friends and family about idstronghold.com so they can feel better too.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Okay, there's a TV show now called Bitten. It's about clans of werewolves or packs of werewolves on the Sci-Fi Channel. But we're not going to talk about that. We'll talk about things that happen in reality. So I asked a question of Ryan Skinner, our guest and prolific author of books on Skinwalker Ranch. Would you have a response?
What do I think about werewolves?
No. No.
Sorry, Gene. Go for it.
Gene is a werewolf, so be careful with your answer.
That's right. Remember, even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. Remember that.
Yeah, evidently.
I remember it. Okay. We're taking over here, folks. Let's go back to the basic core of this here, Ryan. You never thought when you're seeing these creatures, my God, I got to get out of here. What if it attacks? What if it wants to make me its lunch?
The minute the ball of light flew overhead, this thing was 10 feet above us. I wanted nothing. I wanted to be anywhere else in the world except where I was at that point. And then when it landed, feeling even intensified at that point, to wanting to run. And unfortunately, we're at the edge of a cliff. So where it landed was my only escape route. I would have had to jump over. They call it Werewolf Ridge. And
Werewolf Ridge?
Skinwalker Ridge.
The locals, more recently, researchers have renamed it Skinwalker Ridge. But I found out from speaking with the locals who have been there for the past 40, 50 years, it actually had the nickname, that very ridge, before the Shermans and Nids and Bigelow and the whole hoopla came into town. It was named Werewolf Ridge.
Really? Well, that's news.
It's got a history to it, yeah.
And that's if you follow that ridge line up, isn't that where the burial ground is?
Right. Yep. On the eastern part of the property.
Right. Which is not a place that I would recommend anyone going. Based on what I've heard from sources up there, locals, that is the reason why the ranch is taboo, according to some accounts.
Okay, Ryan, do you believe in werewolves then?
Interesting. I'm located in Wisconsin, about 20 miles away from. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Bray Road Beast.
Of course, we've had Linda on the show many times. Linda Godfrey, of course, the author.
Yeah, Linda's great. She's and again, that's about 20 miles from my house. And when that whole incident occurred, I'm just fascinated by the whole mythos and the story behind it. So
I was had a werewolf hitchhiker and you didn't realize it.
Exactly. Followed me to Utah at that time.
Well, the thing, of course, if it's a werewolf, it would be in the form of a human. So you never know.
Well, there have been those up there, too. My favorite story is the werewolf that the cops were chasing that was leaping 20, 25, 30 feet from house to house on the rooftops, being followed by the cops, witnessed allegedly by quite a number of people. And that was up just 2 miles north in Fort Duchesne from the ranch.
Right. Yeah. The cops were actually chasing this thing. It was knocking over garbage cans. Multiple people had seen it. It just fascinates me how kind of the locals how mundane these things are to the locals out there.
I still have not tracked down the cell phone shot of it. Supposedly someone did get a cell phone picture.
I haven't heard of that. Boy, would I like to see it. I've heard different descriptions of it too. One person described it as having a hammerhead shark kind of a head to it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I guess the cop had cornered it, and as it leapt over the rooftop, he got a clear view of it. But yeah, that is pretty frightening. Anyway, do I believe in werewolves? I don't know. I think whatever these things are, they're dimensional in nature. They're crossing time and space. I don't think it's traditional. Just my gut feeling on this. I don't think it's as simple as just visitors from another planet or werewolves and vampires. I think it is somewhat grounded in a science that's yet unknown to us.
All right, let me ask you a fast question then. How do you come to this conclusion? With what evidence would you assume any time-space transfers?
It's a lack of evidence.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's probably exactly it. It's just me and my voice saying this, but I know we had captured everything on film, and for that all to be erased as smoothly as it was and seamlessly, to me that seems to point towards something being able to alter time, at least potentially space, as these things are popping in and out of our reality. I mean, I've seen them and others. I have countless stories of these balls of light and entities actually walking literally right into the ridge itself, into solid rock. I don't think they operate on the same three-dimensional physics that we're bound to. And it's kind of a bombshell, but every year, everyone asks my opinion or what is my hypothesis or what are these things? And lately, I've always said it has a spiritual nature to it. And lately I'm leaning towards, this is kind of might be shocking, but the jinn. And when I say the jinn, I'm referring to the Islamic version of genies, not the traditional Western media portrayal of them. Just a lot of things seem to align with that entity and that type of being,
which are normally associated with particular locations. The jinn tend to stick to one spot.
Yeah, that's another aspect to them, and whatever this is doesn't. It seems to be on I've always called it a leash. They seem to be leashed and tethered to the ranch and that Uinta Basin area. It does not seem to stray much further past that, despite my own book having stories of the whole Four Corners region. But I think it really is significantly hotter right in that Uinta Basin versus almost any other location I've ever been to or even heard of.
Well, that brings us to the new books. Why don't you give us some highlights from the new books and some of the accounts that you've included that you haven't discussed before on the show or written about in your other books? Where did these stories come from? Why release them now? And give us a sense of what they are.
Well, I actually was crafting a single book. All the material that I had gathered, I realized I had two separate stories to tell. Tales of the Skinwalker is just a collection of stories of different people in the Four Corners region. When I say the Four Corners region, of course, that's Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Nevada. I found that I had sought out other books on the topic of skinwalkers, and I didn't want fantasy. I wanted to hear actual stories and tales about people encountering a skinwalker, and I couldn't find any. So I'd been holding on to a few stories people had shared with me over the years, but unfortunately they were from all over, from areas other than just Skinwalker Ranch. So I couldn't utilize them in the other book, but being a little bit more broad-based, I found some commonalities and some really fascinating stories about people encountering these. The other book, The UFO Farm, is a kind of chronicles my personal story over the years. It summarizes almost the first two books that I wrote on the topic and introduces a lot of new information from some, it's almost an extension of the second book, No Trespassing, which I was given a lot of information from insiders regarding the phenomena. And I've, since that book was written, I've collected even more information from new sources. which I've chronicled in that book. I've also included, it's one thing to write things down. I guess words create more of a picture than a photo itself. But the problem is when you're really reading about the ranch, you want to visualize all these different areas that I'm describing. So I included quite a few photos, and some of my readers had asked for more pictures and photos. So quite a bit of the book is photos of the region, drawings of eyewitnesses who had encounters. Again, unfortunately, a lot of people, there's not a lot of photographic and video evidence. I captured what I could from years ago. It's on my website. But the best evidence is the human mind, and putting that to pen and paper. It's not the best evidence, but that's all that we have at the moment.
Let's break for this moment and have more to talk about with Ryan Skinner and Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
You pick up the receiver with your heart racing and sweat dripping from your forehead. You finally muster the courage to dial the number to call into your favorite talk radio show. It rings once, twice, and then...
Hello, it's GCN. What's your name and the state you're calling from?
Surprised you got through, you squeak out.
Jason from Minnesota.
Please hold.
As you patiently wait for your turn, you begin to daydream about being a famous talk radio host and what it would be like to have your own show.
Jason from Minnesota, you're up.
Millions of loyal listeners worldwide waiting to call and talk to you.
Caller, are you there?
Cheering crowds surround you, calling out your name.
Jason! Jason! Going once, twice. Okay, we gotta move on to the next caller.
You blew it.
Huh? Wait, no!
Interact with the host you're listening to right now, online at GCNlive.com. Click on the community link. Engage with other listeners. Ask questions. Start debates. Don't agree with the host? Let them know. Be a part of the community at GCNlive.com.
Gold isn't for you? Ted Anderson, president of Midas Resources, one of the world's premier gold and precious metal investing firms. I get it. You wouldn't buy gold if you believed that the government is doing a great job, that the Fed will stop handing out trillions of dollars like bailout candy, that Social Security would be there for you. That's not what's happening. You might even pass on gold if the stimulus package wouldn't fuel inflation, or that the dollar wouldn't lose value, or that your retirement would be secure. If all looks rosy to you, then now is not the time to buy gold. For the realist, there have never been more sobering reasons to diversify with gold. Since 2001, the U.S. dollar index has tanked 30% while gold has risen 300%. Right now, savvy investors are adding gold to their portfolios. You should too. Find out what they know. Call us and I'll send you 10 reasons why gold will do very well, free. 800-686-2237. 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Have you ever noticed how many sick and miserable people there are? I'm serious. I'm talking about people of all ages who have conditions and diseases which affect their quality of life. Most of them seem to have one thing in common: polypharmacy. That is, dependence on multiple prescription drugs with side effects that actually make them sicker and sicker, not healthy. The good news is that people are waking up to the fact that if you supply your body with all of the nutrients it requires, you will feel better, be healthier, and have a better life. It's important to know that Beyond Tangy Tangerine is the most amazing, great tasting, comprehensive nutritional supplement. Besides supplying all the vitamins our bodies need, it also supplies the necessary minerals that are required for the vitamins to kick in. Look, folks, I'm hooked on it, and I think if you try it, you'll become hooked. This stuff really works. That's why I'm urging you to make it part of your daily health regimen. Visit InfoWarsTeam.com to secure your canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine today. Sign up for auto ship and save on shipping costs. That's Beyond Tangy Tangerine at InfoWarsTeam.com.
Did you know that drinking pure, high alkaline water is one of the most important factors in maintaining high energy and vibrant health? Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops, available only at alkavision.com, combine a unique formula of only the most alkaline minerals. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops alkalize your water, ridding the body of harmful toxins, and helps you regain health and energy. Alkalizing your water by simply adding 10 drops of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops helps helps the body rid itself of acidic waste, increases oxygen content, and raises the pH of your body to healthy levels. And bacteria and viruses cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops for only $29.95 at alkavision.com. That's ALKAvision.com. Or call 269-409-1776. 269-409-1776. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com today.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Sorry to have interrupted you, Ryan. Would you want to continue your response on the Paracast with Gene and Chris?
I think that kind of summarizes the book. A lot of the book also is a summary of some of the interviews that I've done over the years and highlights the interviews that I've done here in the Paracast and the information that we've uncovered. I find all that to be pertinent because a lot of it's not in the Utah UFO display and Colm Kelleher's books, my own books. From just us sitting here talking right now, we're creating information, sharing stories that no one's ever heard before. And I feel part of what I'm doing here is acting as if some sort of repository for these stories that someone else one day will carry the torch and help reveal the mystery behind what is going on out there. Something very real is happening. I mean, we have government agencies investigating it, contracting the research that's being done out there. We have a billionaire who owns the property who to this day is paying researchers and guards to guard it. It's a mystery. It's one I intend to, even if I'm not able to one day, I hope someone else can pick up the torch and continue to shed some light on this.
Well, let's hear some of the more riveting accounts that are included in these two new books. For instance, we have the ongoing controversy that inadvertently helped fuel with my appearance on the Jesse Ventura show when I was Franken-quoted as confirming rumors of deaths on the ranch, which is the exact opposite of what I said. I said I can't confirm rumors. But what are the full? This a question comes from one of our listeners who posted a question on the question thread at forum.theparacast.com, where our guests are asked questions by Paracast forum posters. And Cosmonaut wants to know what are the full and complete details of an alleged battle on the ranch between wormhole aliens and Bigelow armed personnel. First of all, do you think it's true? Why or why not? And then he goes on for a second question. But let's look at that. According to what I have seen in the new books, there's very little, if any, mention of that.
I guess I'm not a big supporter of that theory. I know it's the most shocking account out there, and it makes for a great story. But I've done my own digging into that story quite a bit by people that are in the know that would know. And I keep hitting a brick wall. Can't remember who brought this story to light. Was it Safari? I can't say his name right. Jack Sarfati. I think he's some sort of physicist.
Jack Sarfati. He's an astrophysicist that lives on North Beach in California.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. But I think a lot of the facts of the story got misinterpreted. I've since spoken with Colonel Alexander, who I'm now trying to form a better relationship and a working relationship with as I might be doing some future work with him, and also with George Knapp himself. I'm just not convinced that someone was actually killed on the property, and that the story is as was told.
Yeah, it's interesting. I happened to mention your appearance on the show today to a fellow researcher today. And he said, I've known George Knapp for I don't know how many years, and that's the only time he's ever yelled at me is when I asked him about the alleged deaths on the ranch. He said he found that a little peculiar because George is not usually the type that would yell at you.
Okay, he yelled at you. What did he say? What was he yelling about, or was it just general yelling?
He was emphatically denying that there was anything to the story. And when I talked to him initially, all the way back in 2003, I think, or 2004, when this whole thing first cropped its ugly head, he was very circumspect about it and said that was the first he'd ever heard about it. But I guess possibly now down through the years, he's had so many people ask him about it that it's probably it's become a bit of a sore point for him. Of course, there are the sources that I've been able to uncover that do confirm that something unusual occurred on the ranch. So in terms of somebody dying.
That's the point I want to make. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I think something did occur, but I think it's getting sensationalized with the current version of somebody being killed. I think something fantastic occurred. I just, at this point, I just don't know what. And when I had brought this to Colonel Alexander, he seemed to have a pretty dramatic emotional reaction to that claim as well, just like George Annapolis had.
Is there any evidence, though, that anyone came to harm at all that we can really pinpoint?
Here's what I believe happened. I'm not here to promote other books, but I'm just here to promote the topic of Skinwalker Ranch in general. And anybody doing any sort of research or work into that topic, I'm fascinated by and actually support. There was a book written by, I believe the author's name is Eric Retz, who claims to be, I think, working with one of the guards at Skinwalker Ranch, one of the ex-guards at Skinwalker Ranch, who kind of gave a bare-all story of what had happened to him out there. And his claim, according to his claim, real similar story to mine, seeing balls of light. One of the balls of light landed, and these two wolves approached him. Actually, they were walking bipedally towards him. He ended up falling backwards into a portal, and according to his story, he was missing for 3 days. While Bigelow and everyone at the ranch was, pretty concerned when one of their guards suddenly goes missing completely in another state on a paranormal ranch doing research. And in that time, he claims he was in some sort of alternate dimension and shown various things. But he returned 3 days later and was taken to the hospital. He turned alive. I guess he was pretty parched and weakened, but. And he was debriefed and brought back to Nevada, back to the compound, and finally decided to share his story. So that's what. So
they brought him back and used him as bait.
The cards that I know, the ones I've spoken with, that is the exact term that they have told to me. They said they questioned whether they were there, whether their role was to guard anything at all, or whether they were the ones being experimented on
and dangled.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm a blue Rapala today. You can be a dry fly.
I'm not going to ask anyone to explain what that means.
Well, those are types of bait, Gene. You have salmon eggs, flies, lures. You can be a wiggly worm. Even grasshoppers, pieces of meat can all be used as bait.
Well, understand here, I do not do fishing. I did fishing when I was 10 years old. And then I did fishing when I was 11 years old. And then I didn't do any more fishing. I guess because I don't eat seafood. So I don't see the value.
Well, if you're ever fishing for a sky trout, the type that I've seen videotaped flying by in the air, the best way to catch those is with a sky blue Rapala lure.
All right. Well, maybe we should advertise this. They'll come over and buy ads.
I'm sorry. I'm waxing outdoorsy here. Well, Ryan, I did get confirmation of a death on the ranch. According to one source, it was an Indian who used the ranch as a place to commit suicide. The other confirmation was just that somebody's death was investigated on the ranch. I have never uncovered anything high, strange, or paranormal behind these particular claims, if you will, uncorroborated to some extent. But something did go on there, and I've whittled it down to somewhere around the second half of July 1999.
We're going to explore what that means in our next segment with Gene and Chris and Ryan Skinner. You're in
the Paracast.
Independently leading the way for the nation. Compelling talk for every political persuasion. We are GCN.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKE soft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKE soft.com.
It's very easy to be a criminal. All you need to burglarize a home is one simple household tool, a pair of scissors. If your home security system can be compromised by a criminal using scissors, then you're making it easy for them. Almost every home security system, even those sold by big-name companies, has a weakness, the phone line. You shell out $1,500, get locked into a long-term contract, and think you're safe. But a burglar can destroy your alarm in seconds with one snip. And when a burglar cuts your phone line, you're defenseless. Simply Safe Home Security is the smarter choice. Built by Harvard engineers, Simply Safe uses a wireless connection to call the cops. Scissors can't cut it, and that means your home stays safe. 24/7 professional monitoring is under $15 a month with no contract. Simply Safe Home Security keeps you safer than the other guys for half the cost. Protect your home with the alarm you can trust. Simply Safe. Go to simplysafedefense.com now for an exclusive 10% offer. That's simplysafedefense.com.
Pharmacist Ben Fuchs knows the importance of proper digestion.
Make sure you take a look at the Ultimate Enzyme product. They're made with bile salts and fat digestion enzymes and protein digestive enzymes. And not only do the Ultimate Enzymes give you obvious benefits for digestion, but they can also help keep your blood flowing through your circulatory system. As most of you probably know by now, thick, sludgy, clotting blood is a serious risk factor for heart disease and stroke. Clearly, inappropriate and excessive blood clotting is a major health issue, and thick, sludgy blood is not just about heart health either. Sludgy blood can compromise oxygenation and nutrient delivery to all your cells and tissues and organs and ultimately lead to almost any health issue you can name.
Concerned about proper digestion and heart health? Order Ultimate Enzymes by calling 866-735-2470. That's 866-735-2470 or on the web at brightsideben.com. That's brightsideben.com. Order today.
Friends, this is Alex Jones for MidasResources.com. For more than 15 years, I have exclusively used Midas Resources for all my precious metal needs. Whether it's bullion or collectibles you're looking for, Midas Resources is simply the best. I own my gold as a hedge against inflation. This Federal Reserve fiat currency could go the way of the Deutschmark and the Weimar Republic anytime. In these historically dangerous times, it makes sense to physically hold gold and silver. Midas already has some of the best deals in the industry. But if you give them a call and mention the radio special, they will give you a list of the day's super specials. Midas brokers are standing by to answer all your questions at 800-686-2237. They also have a lot of informative free literature explaining the opportunities and risk of holding precious metals. They are ready to answer your questions at 800-686-2237. Again, that's 800-686-2237.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gray Alien Report, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Chris O'Brien, let's go back through time. Tell us about this particular strange event.
Well, again, these are only rumors. They're not corroborated. They haven't been confirmed. I have not been able to obtain any sort of documentation to support these claims, but two separate sources did mention a death of some individual on the ranch sometime in the mid to latter parts of the summer of 1999.
Now, these are sources that you trust?
Yes, they are. One source that I trust implicitly because they worked nearby the ranch on a large for a large corporation. They had a high profile position. I've checked her out. It's a woman. I've checked her out in her bona fides. She was who she said she was, and did have the work history that she claimed she had. And she would not have come to me with this particular story unless in my estimation, unless she felt that it was true. And she did have a personal one-on-one interaction with Ute law enforcement personnel who did confirm that there was a suicide on the ranch. She didn't believe him at the time. She felt he was covering up something, but that's what she was told. And she was right there observing unusual activity on the ranch when this interaction with law enforcement personnel occurred. She was asked to immediately vacate, her vantage point where she found herself confronted by law enforcement. So, I don't want to give away any names. I don't have permission to use her name, but that wasn't the only person. I had someone else also confirm that a death occurred on the ranch. However, I have never heard anything having to do with the paranormal, the high strange, firefights, some sort of altercation, either accidental or otherwise. I have never heard anything to authenticate any of those types of scenarios. I have heard, as Ryan mentioned, sensationalized versions of a portal opening up right in front of personnel and somebody falling in one case, and that was before the recent book that came out. What was the guy's name? Eric? What was his name that wrote the book?
Eric Reitz, R-H-E-T-T-S.
Yeah, this is before Eric's book came out. I did hear about somebody inadvertently falling into or having the portal open up and kill them was one version of the story. So again, all this is it's all fireside chat material. It's campfire stories until we can get some sort of real evidence. Have you ever checked into a suicide on the ranch, Ryan?
No, but you got me hungry for that story. So now I might be talking off air about this a little bit more.
Second half of July 1999 is about when I can ID the time period.
No, I knew one of the Myers children had some sort of accident on the property and was buried on the ranch, which is one of the reasons why they told the Shermans that there's no digging on the ranch.
According to Colm Kelleher and George Knapp, it seemed that Terry felt that any time he was going to do some digging and actually started using a backhoe or started putting in irrigation, digging ditches, that sort of thing, that seemed to spark activity, and it seemed to be like throwing gasoline on a fire or something.
Yeah, I don't know what that parallel is yet, and I remember reading that. So, and I know in the northern part of the property, 2 years ago, they're doing all sorts of I don't know if it's fracking or what they're doing out there, but they're doing oil excavation all around the ranch, and they were actually building a pipeline right through the northern part of the ranch, digging in the pipeline.
What, at the base of the ridge?
Right past the ridge, a little bit north of the ridge. And I know Bigelow wasn't too happy about that, and the project suddenly didn't continue. So I don't know where it's at right now. Again,
have you checked into the mineral and mineral rights and treasure rights on the property? Does Bigelow retain all those? It doesn't sound like he does.
He does.
He does?
He does. And that was another curious thought I had, was maybe he didn't have the mineral rights, which is exactly why. He does have the rights on the property. Keep in mind, the ranch, and especially everything to the north of it, is owned by Hickens, not Bigelow. He only owns a small section of that ridge.
Right. That's what I thought. So, but the ranch can, I guess, only be called that south of the ridge.
That's correct. But when I think of, I guess the popular idealization of the ranch is that it includes the ridge and the ridge line and everything else. Which
no, it doesn't. That's why you and I can go up there and sneak around it.
That's right. Right.
In all confidence.
So when I said I was trespassing, not necessarily on Bigelow's property. I think you did.
I didn't say that, did I? Actually, I don't make a point of going up there. I try to stay away from that part of the world. Actually, where I'm interested in is south of the ranch, at the southern end of the Uinta Basin, where all the, I consider the ranch to be the red herring, and all the good stuff's happened south of there.
Remember, at the beginning of this interview, that's where I had my first encounter was south of the ranch. That whole area, Books Cliff area, I really think that's where some of this is emanating from.
Yeah.
we had a little bit different direction. It's something I want to make sure I get across in the interview, and a little bit of new information is I learned from one of my sources that we had talked about portals opening up and potentially someone dying out there. I really want to reiterate to the reader that whatever this is out there, it is not benign. It is potentially hostile and has been known to have done hostile kind of activity to others in the past. For example, the best example is the dogs that were turned to the Sherman's dogs that were on the ranch that were turned to puddles of goo, hair, and teeth.
Ooh, whoa! Tell us more about that. Give us more specifics.
I was on the phone with Terry the night that happened.
Okay, can you give us more specifics?
I'd rather hear it from you.
Well, I mentioned
what did Terry say?
Well, I've mentioned this a number of times. He called me right when the blue glowing balls of light showed up, and he called me on the phone and gave me a blow-by-blow description of what the balls were doing in real time. And at one point, I think they had already come out and they had checked out his horses. Then he called me. They were out milling around, I think around the corrals. His wife went outside. He was yelling at her to get back in. She came back in. The light flew really close to the ranch house. The lights dimmed. The outside lights and the ranch house lights inside dimmed. And then I'd have to check my notes on this, but pretty quickly, within a minute or two, he said, "Oh boy, the light has taken off. It took off and went out towards the shrubs and the bushes and out towards the trees." And his dogs were out chasing it. He says, "I got to go get my dogs. I'll call you back." And he never did call me back. And so I figured, everything had died down. Nothing had happened. I called him the next morning, or he called me. I forget which. I think I may have called him. And he said he had gone out and was unable to find his dogs. And we went out the following morning. He found 3 grease piles, is how he put it, which he assumed were his dogs. And later on, descriptions came out that there were the teeth were there, some hair, some hide, and other things. But he used the word, he found 3 grease piles that used to be his dogs, is how he put it to me the following day.
So he's saying long and short of it is he never saw those dogs again.
No.
Okay.
No, the dogs disappeared, and it's assumed that they met a very traumatic end. And one thing that I found very curious is in the book, Hunt for the Skinwalker, the event, if memory serves me correct, was stated as happening in April of 1995, when the event actually happened the first week of August 1996, because I wrote it down as it was happening. I wrote it down in my logbook. And so Colm and George were relying on Terry's 10 years later, his recollections, or 8 years later, and Terry evidently got the dates wrong because I had him right. I was on the phone with him when that incident happened. And to make it even more bizarre, I had just received reports of softball-sized blue glowing lights in the San Luis Valley the same day that those types of lights were described up at the Uinta Basin.
What a strange report, I'll tell you, folks.
Just to kind of send it off even further into the Twilight Zone.
Let's go to another Twilight Zone here, and then we'll be back and figure out what dimension we're in. With Ryan Skinner, Gene, and Chris, you're in
the Twilight Zone.
Great minds think alike. The network for the independent-minded. The Genesis Communications Network. GCN.
Usually, the older one gets, the less you are able to absorb amino acids and the less you are able to repair the 100 trillion cells of your body. As a result, you'll have less energy, your tissues will shrink, and you'll become wrinkled. An older person will typically injure more easily and heal more slowly. Not fun. However, if you can consume a protein powder that is easier to absorb, then you may be able to gain back some strength, muscle, and speed of recovery. One World Whey is a highly digestible whey protein powder that may be the perfect answer for you.
My name is Errol. I'm 74 years old. You know, the taste of One World Whey is amazing. I play pickleball, and since taking One World Whey and your trace mineral supplement, I have more energy and recover faster from my working out. I used to take another grass-fed whey protein powder, but now I'm getting much better results using One World Whey.
Call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit oneworldway.com.
It's very easy to be a criminal. All you need to burglarize a home is one simple household tool, a pair of scissors. If your home security system can be compromised by a criminal using scissors, then you're making it easy for them. Almost every home security system, even those sold by big-name companies, has a weakness: the phone line. You shell out $1,500, get locked into a long-term contract, and think you're safe. But a burglar can destroy your alarm in seconds with one snip. And when a burglar cuts your phone line, you're defenseless. Simply Safe Home Security is the smarter choice. Built by Harvard engineers, Simply Safe uses a wireless connection to call the cops. Scissors can't cut it, and that means your home stays safe. 24/7 professional monitoring is under $15 a month with no contract. Simply Safe Home Security keeps you safer than the other guys for half the cost. Protect your home with the alarm you can trust. Simply Safe. Go to simplysafedefense.com now for an exclusive 10% offer. That's simplysafedefense.com.
Hi, John Hubner from Midas Resources. Are you tired of watching your hard-earned assets dwindle away? As government spending is out of hand and the Federal Reserve is creating in excess of $20 billion a week, are you tired of stockbrokers gambling away your hard-earned money? Is this market a setup for a crash greater than 1987? Too many of today's policies resemble those that led to the collapse of 1929. This is John Hubner, and that was me in 2007. And we all know what happened when the subprime credit bubble burst. By March 2009, the dollar lost 50% of its value. The entire U.S. banking system was on the verge of collapsing. Like all financial problems of the past, is history about to repeat itself? Call me, John Hubner, at 1-800-686-2237, extension 129, before it's too late to protect yourself. Will the oncoming catastrophe take all private IRAs, 401ks with it? There is a way to protect your hard-earned assets. Call me, John Hubner, at 1-800-686-2237, extension 129.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-905-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-905-MY-TV. 1-855-905-MY-TV.
Hi, it's Grant Cameron from PresidentialUFO.com. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Or the other show, There Was Nothing Wrong With Your TV Set. We are controlling transmission. I don't want to get into that.
No, we're in the outer limits with this one. Ryan, you are absolutely correct. You cannot assume love and light, Space Brothers here to solve all our problems. We are dealing with something that does have a mercurial, tricksterish type personality that can be fatal.
Absolutely can be fatal. And whether you're becoming a grease spot instantaneously, like what happened to the dogs, or more of the slow, painful death, it is occurring in the basin. I recently was able to speak with one of the higher ups that was working with Bass at that time. When I say working with Bass, he was not a part of Bass. Bass is what NIDS evolved into, acronym for NIDS. But he was actually working with the government. I don't want to reveal too much about his position or anything else, but the government was working directly with Bass. They had contracted the work that was going on at the property. He's, of course, is sworn to oaths and everything else, so he's very little he can share with me. But he did intimate to me that whatever is out there is a concern for the U.S. government. It's considered a threat to the U.S. government, and it's concerning to our government, and also that the locals are coming down with high rates of cancer. and that those exposed to the light are also having immediate radiation, I guess, poisoning symptoms.
All right, this is an interesting claim here. I want to get more information about it. And by the way, that buzzing you hear occasionally, that's Ryan's mobile phone.
It is.
Where someone's trying to call, so it buzzes rather than rings. Okay, he's using that for a Skype connection. All right, so if people are getting sick, is that documented anywhere? And when you say that, of course, I think of the situation over at the Rendlesham Forest UFO case, where we have John Burroughs, who got sick after that. So in this case here, when you say people are getting sick, suggesting that, do we have names, dates, places, something?
Again, I'm just a guy who is fascinated by the topic, who got thrown into this. At the end of the day, I'm not a statistician,
yes.
But I'm a collector and purveyor of stories. And this one, not only that, but I've made relationships with the neighbors surrounding the ranch. And one of my closest relations that I had formed was with Charles Wynn, who is directly to the west of the ranch, owns a lot of land out there. And Charles had a close encounter that had occurred to him early 2000s, where he encountered one of these balls of light, a real large one, and zoomed right up to him, that he believes causes illness. He eventually contracted several forms of cancer, and is now he died. He's dead right now, unfortunately. A great person too, but right up into his death, he said no one would listen to him, but he believed that encounter is what had caused his illness and all the different forms of cancer that he had contracted. He said he was healthy as a horse prior to that, and immediately after suffered all forms of depression and different cases of cancer. There's also John to the east. He is a neighbor to the east, and I don't quote me, but I've heard from his neighbors and other locals that he also has cancer as well. None of these are young people, but it was just the rates of cancer in that region and depression and suicide are off the charts.
All right, you're making a claim here, a factual claim, off the charts, yeah. Ryan. How do we know that? Do we have records? Do you have newspaper accounts? Anything?
That's the problem. I don't have any of the stats. I really think I need someone with a lot more experience in that field to do the footwork for me.
Well, just look up rates of environmental cancers on Indian reservations, and the area around the Jicarilla Apache Reservation, Dulce, will come up high on the charts. Now you're saying that there's possible correlations with the Uinta Basin and the Ute Indians. I think that would be a really worthwhile study for one of our listeners, or Ryan, or even myself, when I have some extra time to look into. Because of Project Gas Buggy in 1966, when the government in El Paso oil exploded a 27 megaton nuclear weapon 4,000 feet below Dulce, just a few miles southwest. It probably leached into the groundwater, and we have high rates of environmental cancers. What we're talking about here with the Uinta Basin may be different. It seems to be more select, and I would think that a study of that particular county in terms of environmental rates of cancer is readily available online. So that's something that you could possibly look into, Ryan.
When we were busy throwing off nuclear bombs in the 40s and 50s, were any tests done within any distance of these places?
I'm told St. George had a bunch of bombs and ordinances that were exploded up there that locals, right after the bombs had been tested, I guess locals had described silvery cobweb kind of things that had gone all over the trees. If you've ever heard of that before, like fiberglass.
Yeah, and I think they even sued, didn't they? They successfully sued the government.
I have no idea if you remember that story.
I seem to recall that.
That's some 40, 50 minutes from Skinwalker Ranch. So maybe there's a correlation there. But what was fascinating, the reason I bring that up is I'd always heard those rumors, again, of the locals, the high suicide rates, cases of depression, and especially cancer. And then to hear this from someone I believe, checked out his credentials, it's someone I believe is higher up with the military confirming that to me. I just, again, these are not our space brothers that are going to bring enlightenment and everything else. This is something that's concerning our own government.
Now, that's an interesting question here. Are we seeing here, when we look at these events, any evidence of some kind of government interactions in terms of doing various and sundry kinds of tests?
Bigelow would bring out all sorts of his various space equipment out to the ranch from time to time. And
how so?
Different atmosphere. He would bring machines that would different atmospheric changes, and I don't know. Most of his tests actually were pretty low key and not very advanced. I just know one time he brought out this multi-million-dollar machine that was supposed to test all sorts of the soil and the atmosphere and the forecast. I don't know, all sorts of different things that I have no idea exactly what he was looking for. But I guess whatever he was trying to test, the machine broke on site. They had tested extensively in Nevada. Everything had worked flawlessly, but when they brought it to the ranch, it kept breaking. Was that a coincidence? Was that part of the phenomena? I don't know. But I do know some of the tests that he would run is there's really low. There's not a lot of sensationalism to them. He would plant beans on the ranch and at various places on the ranch, and then also at the exact same time plant beans and watch the growth rates and at different places around Utah. All at the same time. And everything that had grown on the ranch, these beans, as they would start to grow, would actually wither and die or not grow at all, versus all the other locations where he had grown life. To me, it was, although not the most advanced test, it was pretty revealing.
Well, I mean, it has some gravitas to it. I wouldn't want to be a real estate agent trying to sell farmland in that area if that's the case.
No kidding. Maybe that ties into what's being examined out there, and then these rates of cancer, and maybe there is some larger health concern. It is public knowledge that the Fort Duchesne, that Uinta Basin area, has, I think, the highest or the second highest ozone rate in the entire world is the claim that I've come across. And I know the government's come in and done all sorts of studies as to why, and I believe they currently still don't know why the ozone is so whack in that region.
So I'm a little confused here. Now you're saying that region has more ozone detected?
Yes, that's what
really. Interesting. I'd never heard that, because just south and slightly east of there is some of the regions that have the most methane attributed to it. Isn't it, correct me if I'm wrong, right around Farmington? I'm sure one of our listeners will correct me if I'm wrong here. But didn't they, I've just seen a series of articles within the last 3 or 4 months that there's a huge hotspot of methane, I think, that's coming out of the area north of Farmington, which, again, as the crow flies, is not that far from, the area we're talking about around the Uinta Basin. We're talking, a couple hundred miles, maybe 250 miles?
Let's do our break here, and then we'll figure this all out again. Talking about Skinwalker Ranch and environs with Ryan Skinner, author of 2 new books on the subject. With Gene and Chris, you're in The Outer Limits.
Independently leading the way for the nation. Compelling talk for every political persuasion. We are GCN.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit, then carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Hi, Ted Anderson. I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Are you suffering from EP? The symptoms include fraudulent charges to your credit card. Your subway card says it's empty, but you bought it yesterday. Someone's been in your hotel room, but the desk clerk says they only show you entering the room. These are signs of EP, electronic pickpocketing. Payment cards, transit cards, even hotel room keys use a radio chip, so you can just wave your card at the register, the turnstile, or your hotel room door. But what's convenient for you is also convenient for thieves, waving scanners to electronically pickpocket you without even touching you. The good news is there's a cure. ID Stronghold has created leather wallets and clutches that have built-in EP protection. Layers of shielding material cleverly concealed in a beautiful leather wallet that stops the symptoms of EP. Go to idstronghold.com now and get the cure. idstronghold.com. Warning, ID Stronghold wallets could lead to feelings of safety and security, comfort in crowds, and euphoria. If you experience these emotions, immediately inform your friends and family about idstronghold.com so they can feel better.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
I was mentioning earlier, one of our listeners had suggested that we have listeners record the words of the Paracast with sound effects, without sound effects, altering their voices, and maybe we run them occasionally, and those who do get theirs run, we give them a prize of some sort.
I need some help here. Give me some help.
Right. Chris is in need of help. Unfortunately, there is no treatment for that condition.
Well, since I stopped smoking, I can't get that really gravelly, the Paracast. It's really tough for me now, so I need some help, folks.
Oh, yeah, that sounds good. Let's give Chris some help. All right. Let me ask you, Ryan, all this stuff that's going on in and around Skinwalker Ranch, what can we do to interest scientists to go take a look, to see what's going on? Because otherwise it's just anecdotal stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. Blackmail Bigelow.
Yeah, as if that's going to work.
I don't know. I mean, Bigelow really did develop a team of some of the best scientists in the nation. Phenomena. So how can we get scientists off of his payroll on this topic is a good question. There's neighboring properties, but that's really a question I have no idea how to answer.
Well, I think that's great. Come up with some sort of Kickstarter campaign to come up with a big chunk of change and talk to one of his neighbors, maybe just to the south of him, and say, hey, we got all this money. We want to hire some scientists to come in and do, plant some gear, do periodic studies, pay you to be extra vigilant.
I have relationships formed with a lot of the locals, ones I haven't even mentioned yet, right next to the property. So we do have land available, and the proximity to the ranch is more than that.
Well, let's do binary data collection and then shame Bigelow into comparing data. I think that's a great idea. Geez, I mean, with the way that crowdfunding works today, I mean, something as sexy and as sensational, as exciting as Skinwalker Ranch, we could do Skin Runner Ranch right next door and have a public, transparent public data gathering effort that would shame him into sharing his data. I think that's a great idea. Gene, where you been all my life?
You know what? I give you these ideas. I don't charge for them. There's no license fee. We just have to organize the Kickstarter or a GoFundMe campaign and see what happens. And I can't see where Bigelow can do anything about it because it does not infringe on his property that he owns.
Yeah, what he could do is come up with a chunk of change that's bigger than the chunk we're offering. Then everybody wins except for us.
I've been in contact with the people over at the Helsinki Lights Project. I think it's is it in Finland or Norway?
It has Dallin, but we won't chide you too much on your faux pas.
They're doing a video project where they're constantly monitoring everything that's going on.
They've been doing it for 30 years, yeah. Right. I'm also doing the San Luis Valley Camera Project. I'm having a hard enough time just getting my proverbial dung together for that particular project, which is progressing, but But yeah, this is actually an exciting idea. Get one of the ranchers, hey, on your off time, manage a bunch of scientific gear, work with some high-powered consultants who shall not be named, and we will, try to correlate some data with old Biggie and the boys.
The question I would have there, though, is even if you offered to share with him, would he accept that invitation?
Well, probably not, but it would at least show him that we have initiative, and we're not just into sensationalizing these stories and into creating cultural mythos, but we're actually into attempting to go beyond head scratching into the realm of pure science. I mean, to me, that would be more of an inducement to get him to share data than it would be to just continue sensationalizing the whole thing as rightfully it should be. It should be shared with the public. I think this is one of the most important cases ever. And I've always said that, and I always will say that until I'm proven another case comes along that's better. But I really think that this is an opportunity to conduct valid science and not give progress reports every 2 months about what we're doing and what our results are, but actually come up with a body of data that can be published for peer review and show Bigelow the way, show him how to do what he's been attempting to do for almost 20 years now, almost 18 years. The guy's been up there. I mean, hello, you got to have something. I mean, pony up or, sell the place.
Well, he'll do what he wants to do.
Yeah, but if we do what we want to do and actually, conduct some experiments and gather some data, maybe that'll shame him into, coalescing his efforts with ours.
Let me ask you something, Ryan Skinner. In your new books, putting them together, collecting all this material, did anything surprise you? Things that you expected or believed about Skinwalker Ranch that turned out to be different?
I'm just amazed by some of the stories that I've collected over the years from the various Four Corners region. A lot of the stories talk about these old people that are seen dressing up like skinwalkers, or I guess once the skinwalker is revealed or takes its human form, it's commonly seen as this old Indian form, which has been reported also in one particularly dramatic encounter on Skinwalker Ranch. Also, that the skinwalkers themselves seem to be bound by some sort of rules. They commonly go up to the sides of homes and they're knocking on the windows, knocking on the doors, scratching on the walls. They seem more than capable of breaking into a house or home, yet it's almost as if they're waiting to be invited in. I'm fascinated by that unseen, invisible barrier between us and them.
So what is it, like a vampire? If you invite them in, you invite trouble?
Or the black-eyed children?
It sounds a lot like the black-eyed children kind of events. Well, none of the stories I've collected, they actually invite the skinwalker in. So I don't know what happens. Should you invite one in? I don't think anybody would want to.
Honey, invite them in. Ask them if they want some coffee.
Right.
Oh, I'm not even going to characterize what I just heard. That stopped the show dead in its tracks, folks. All right. So basically, Ryan Skinner, to sum things up, and we've got some more to go and some questions from listeners, you feel that we're interacting with another dimension, and that's why we have all these wacky things happening.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. Some sort of interdimensional trickster-like entity that is a foreign intelligence causing health concerns to not only the local people, but with a mission or objective that's yet unknown to us. Why they're there and why they're region.
That's what's always puzzled me, is why that particular location, whether it's Skinwalker Ranch, areas around the San Luis Valley, around White Sands, around the Black Hills, around Mount Shasta. I mean, you could just start, going through a litany of areas that seem to have a predominance of activity. Why those areas? Have you ever really, thought about that? Looked into some of the, possible geophysical properties of the area? How about some of the legends? How much headway have you had digging into some of the mythology of the area? Why is it a taboo area to the Utes? I know you've covered some of this material in your first couple of books, but what is your gut feeling about it? Why do you think it's centered there, or tethered, or on a leash, as you put it?
Let's find out from Mayan Skinner in our next segment with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Neighbors, are you tired of dealing with a slow web hosting provider? Well, check out A2 Hosting and their screaming fast Swift server platform. They even have SSDs that load pages 300% faster than the competition. Ready to give your site a speed boost? Well, tell you what, neighbors, head on over to a2hosting.com. That's A2, that's number 2, a2hosting.com. Check out their Prime hosting account. And get this, neighbors, they're even giving you an exclusive 25% off discount for all our listeners. 25%. And remember, their Guru Crew support team is standing by 24/7, 365 days a year to answer any of your questions. Now, to get the discount, use the coupon code GENE when you check out.
Have you ever felt like the United States government knows way too much about your financial affairs? I continue to hear stories about property seizures, frozen bank accounts, confiscation of stocks and bonds. It makes me wonder if the U.S. citizen will ever again have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Unfortunately, with the Drug and Money Laundering Act, the IRS Revenue Ruling 6045 of 1984, and the Trading with the Enemy Act and Franklin D. Roosevelt's Executive Order of 1933, some precious metal holdings are subject to government intervention. For this reason, Midas Resources has prepared a report explaining the boundaries of trading precious metals privately. Whether if you have any intention of trading with Midas Resources or not, I have instructed my representatives to give this report out free. Call for your free copy at 1-800-686-2237. When investing, always proceed with caution. Again, call 1-800-686-2237. Exercise your legal right to trade metals privately. 1-800-686-2237.
We live in a complicated society. Stressful issues are always popping up. Have you ever been treated unfairly by someone? Have you ever been overcharged for a repair? Have you ever signed a contract or a document worried about identity theft? How many times have you been in those unique situations where you just wanted to call an attorney to find out if you're right or wrong, or what your legal rights are? But every time you think about calling an attorney, what do you think about first? That's right. Who do you call, and how much will it cost? Our friends at Legal Shield have found a solution. With a nationwide network of 6,900 attorneys who average 19 years of experience, Legal Shield's law firms take over 40,000 calls per week helping their members. For less than $20 per month, you can have access to Legal Shield on everything from the trivial to the traumatic. Let Legal Shield stand up for your rights at lsprotection.com. That's lsprotection.com. Or call 855-340-SAVE, 855-340-7283.
Results will vary from case to case.
I'm Kay Swirling from KSCO Radio in Santa Cruz. I'm 93 years old, and I'm a big fan of Alex Jones because he has the courage to speak his mind more than just about anyone I know. Alex is just as bothered as I am about all the advertising you hear for toxic prescription drugs that make you sicker, not healthy. I prefer to give my body all 90 essential nutrients it needs for life to prevent disease, not compound it. My favorite complete supplement is Beyond Tangy Tangerine from Youngevity, which I take every day along with EFA Plus and Beyond OsteoFX. I recommend you go online to InfoWarsTeam.com to purchase these products and make them part of your daily regimen to get healthy and live longer. InfoWarsTeam.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Yes, why are these events centered in those particular regions of the country, Mount Shasta and Skinwalker Ranch area? Four Corners, all that stuff. Strange. We have something else that's not strange, and that's to tell you we have a free book we want to give you. It's Stalking the Tricksters from Chris O'Brien, generously donated to anyone who orders a 1-year or 5-year subscription to the Paracast Plus. Go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. Subscribe for 1 year or 5 years. You get the ad-free version of the show, higher quality audio, the exclusive After the Paracast podcast. We'll have more to say on these things in that show. That's plus.theparacast.com. Ryan Skinner wrote a couple more books about the Skinwalker Ranch that we want you to check out. One of them is called Skinwalker Ranch, the UFO Farm, and the other one is Tales of the Skinwalker, a collection of stories from Skinwalker Ranch and beyond. So, Ryan, Chris asked a question about why are these things centered on these specific regions?
Yeah, what makes the area unique? A couple commonalities jumped out at me, at least, is it has the ridgeline and these mesas. I've noticed from all the stories I've collected, there's always been a high occurrence of strangeness around the mesas, typically around the edge or the base of these mesas, and the lonely, isolated people that live among them. I think the desolation of the area itself contributes to this. This is not in a highly populated area. The basin, I think, is the only place in the entire world that has the mineral gilsonite in it. I don't know what the relationship with gilsonite is, but there may be something to that angle as well. And the basin itself being one giant bowl. I don't know, maybe it's concentrating energy, or maybe some sort of the membrane between our world and the next, or this parallel dimension thin.
What is gilsonite? That's news to me. I'm not familiar with that mineral.
Yeah, it's kind of a boring, honestly, kind of a boring mineral. Or I guess maybe if you're a scientist, it's exciting, but it's used for a lot of different industrial processes. I mean, nothing really that jumped out at me as being spectacular, but it is the only place you can mine for it is in the basin, I believe, in the entire world, which is very unique in that regard. It's used in, I can't remember the property about it that makes it unique, but it didn't stand out.
So you think if we took actual readings of these areas, we'd find properties that are clearly identified, that can be repeated in terms of the measurements, and therefore tell us why it may attract strange stuff?
Well, I'm always looking for the next big hotspot. And if you can find some sort of geological feature that makes this attractive to the entities, in theory, I could pinpoint another location where there isn't guards that are ready to put me into the dirt at any moment, where I can conduct research without being bothered by or looking over my shoulder for a guard at any moment. That's what I'm looking for next. And there are other hotspots like Bradshaw Ranch. There's a ranch in Colorado that's having similar occurrences. And a common theme among all these, of course, are that they're in the Southwest, just like the San Luis Valley. They're in desolate areas where the human population's low. And a lot of these unusual rock formations seem to contribute. I don't know what the relationship is. I don't pretend to know, but just looking for commonalities. I think there even is a magnetic anomaly in the Skinwalker region. The when viewed from space. I'd looked at a few maps and found the area was unique in that regard in the basin itself. One other interesting point is there is a significantly higher amount of silica in the soil in the basin, which of course is conductive to electricity.
So are there magnetic low areas? In other words, if looking at a map, let's say an aeromagnetic map, a composite map over years of the Earth's magnetic field there in the Uinta Basin, is it a magnetic low in terms of its signature in the Earth's magnetic field, or is it a magnetic high with more field strength?
It'd be a magnetic low, from what I remember. I have pictures on my website.
That makes sense because the area was underwater for millions of years until fairly recently. They think possibly that all the water that used to be covering the Uinta Basin may have carved Grand Canyon, actually, when it drained to the ocean.
It's interesting being out there. You do get the impression that you're at the bottom of some sort of vast sea, or what was a sea at one point. So I guess that makes a lot of sense.
Well, the absolute last vestiges of all that ocean water, of course, is Great Salt Lake, which is slowly condensing down, and evaporating, creating like the Bonneville salt flats and salt flats all around the area there from the residual salt that is left behind when the water and moisture evaporates. The Uinta Basin is similar in that regard, to my knowledge, limited knowledge, in that it probably was covered with water until fairly recently, within just a few million years, possibly. Again, I'm sure some of my geologist listeners are going to get on the forums and spank me soundly if I'm wrong.
I think they'll enjoy that too, spanking you.
Well, I know some posters really like that. So, I like to give them a little bit of ammunition every now and then. But Ryan, I like your thinking. I think there are many areas around the Southwest that deserve intensive investigation. There's some very near me that if I had a little bit more time and some help, I would really like to zero in on some hardcore investigative work. And we're talking some real, I think, quality areas. And I'm sure at some point we should compare notes, because there's a few areas I'm sure that you've been kind of zeroing in on yourself. Any particular general areas that, without giving away any specific locations, but any particular general areas that are on your radar?
Good question. I've come across a lot of interesting stories about hidden gold and treasure and whatnot in the northern Uinta. I don't know if you've ever heard about supposed Aztec gold that's buried in the mountains up there.
Yeah, and also down by Kanab too, where there's supposedly a treasure in a small little kind of a miniature lake that has underwater grottos associated with it. Supposedly, the northernmost of the Aztec treasures did end up in southern Utah. That much I've read.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, the Aztecs were actually here one time. Based on one of the stories I'm reading is that there was lava tubes that went into or came out of one of these mountain ranges up there. And supposedly those lava tubes extend for miles and miles underground. And the story is that it had hit a vein of gold, and actually the walls themselves are lined in gold, supposedly in this lava tube. And walking down it, you come across these 3 giant thrones. I mean, thrones built for people that stood over 10 feet tall.
Let's expand on that. Let's talk about that in our next segment.
Sure.
People over 10 feet tall. Okay, Ryan Skinner is not 10 feet tall. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Not just an alternative to the mainstream media. We're the premier independent talk radio network. We are GCN.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats, I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKE soft.com. lemkesoft.com. LEMKE soft.com.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Genesis is defined as an origin, creation, or the beginning. Genesis Communications Network began with the mission of providing you with the kind of compelling content you're listening to now. And at GCNlive.com, you'll find a free archive of our nation's history, narrated by GCN hosts, explored, shared, and passed down to future generations. GCN is the future of talk radio, but we should always strive to learn from our past. Together, we are GCNlive.com. GCN.
If you constantly feel run down and tired, your pH level might be low and your body could be full of toxins. If what you drink is not at a pH level of 8 or higher, you are inviting bacteria and acid to thrive in your body. But there is something you can do. Simply add 10 drops of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops to your water to help your body rid itself of acidic waste, increase oxygen, and raise your pH balance to optimum levels. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops combine a unique formula of the most alkaline minerals in the world, alkalizing the water you drink, ridding your body of acidic waste and toxins, and helping you regain energy and vibrant health. And studies show viruses, bacteria, and toxins cannot survive in an alkaline, high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops at alkavision.com. That's ALKA vision.com. Or call 269-409-1776. 269-409-1776. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com today.
It's very easy to be a criminal. All you need to burglarize a home is one simple household tool, a pair of scissors. If your home security system can be compromised by a criminal using scissors, then you're making it easy for them. Almost every home security system, even those sold by big-name companies, has a weakness: the phone line. You shell out $1,500, get locked into a long-term contract, and think you're safe. But a burglar can destroy your alarm in seconds with one snip. And when a burglar cuts your phone line, you're defenseless. Simply Safe Home Security is the smarter choice. Built by Harvard engineers, Simply Safe uses a wireless connection to call the cops. Scissors can't cut it, and that means your home stays safe. 24/7 professional monitoring is under $15 a month with no contract. Simply Safe Home Security keeps you safer than the other guys for half the cost. Protect your home with the alarm you can trust. Simply Safe. Go to simplysafedefense.com now for an exclusive 10% offer. That's simplysafedefense.com.
This is Leslie Kane, and I'm with the Coalition for Freedom of Information, and you are listening to the Paracast.
So something constructed for people over 10 feet tall.
3 thrones. I love that.
3 thrones. There was a giant plate, like a disc in the center, and supposedly on the disc and on the walls are, believe I read, Egyptian hieroglyphics that were on the walls. The plates had Aztec-like figures carved into them. The size of the thrones is what's fascinating to me. I mean, the story itself is fascinating if true, but of course it's just a rumor at this time. Supposedly the Mormon Church had learned about this place because one of the Utes knew about it, and one of the Ute chiefs was given a vision and was told to let the Mormon Church to reveal it to the Mormon Church, and it helped. I believe many years ago, the church was having all sorts of financial troubles when they were first started. And suddenly, after this discovery, and they had an emissary that was taken there, they left with quite a bit of gold that fulfilled all their financial obligations and plus some. Supposedly, the claim is there was enough gold in. I don't care about the gold actually, but enough in it to pave the streets, from here to New York with gold or something. But it was these three thrones that fascinates me. And supposedly at the entrance, the place is supposedly guarded by these shadow entities that, like whirlwind entities that will eviscerate you and drain the blood and everything else out of you if you were to approach it with intentions of robbing.
Now, is this in the Uintas or the Wasatch?
This is right on the very edge of the Uintas. Yeah.
Right, which would be the southern end of the Uintas, which are the only mountain range in North America that go east and west. By the way,
what's interesting about this too is for those that may have read George Knapp's book and Kelleher's book, Hunt for the Skinwalker, the supposed area, and I've done a lot of research into locating where this is at. The supposed area is right where the natives had told Junior Hicks was the lair of the Skinwalker in a place called Dark Canyon. Right in Dark Canyon, a little bit to the north, according to other books I've read on the topic, is where this supposed secret cave is located. That has all these Aztec treasures and Egyptian hieroglyphics, and to me, that could be the holy grail of what's behind all this. Something summoned by the Aztecs, many years ago, or who knows. But that's what I'm looking into. And that's the latest adventure and where I plan to spend my summer.
Well, from Scooby-Doo to Indiana Jones in one fell swoop.
It's
hey, anytime you're going to make an expedition to find enough gold to pave the streets in New York, let me know. I'll clear my schedule.
I don't know.
Sounds like fun, man.
But yeah, it does. I heard a rumor from somebody? Did you ever try to find that Temple Isis or the supposed some sort of a cave in the Grand Canyon?
Yeah, actually, I did.
Yeah.
We mounted an expedition in May 2012, but we were unable to fly a remote-controlled aerial platform because of high winds. We had a steady 40, 50 mile an hour wind, and it was 98 degrees too, I might add. It's like being in the world's largest blow dryer. But I do have a sense of, based on my research, where the Kincaid entrance allegedly is located. And as a matter of fact, just on Monday, I flew over the area in a helicopter on a Maverick helicopter tour, and got some fairly good photographs of that particular probably quarter-mile stretch of Marble Canyon where that entrance is allegedly located. I haven't even uploaded the shots onto my computer yet, but I do know how to get out there. I've the ill-fated Terry Wiles expedition where people probably should have died but didn't. It is a very difficult spot to get to. You probably have to get to it from the river, which makes it even more problematic because you have to get permission to go down the river, which is very difficult to do. Go down to Colorado, entering just at the top of Grand Canyon. So, but I have done quite a bit of research. Of course, my publisher, David Hatcher Childress, has done quite a bit of research, and I've dovetailed my work on top of his. I'm not sure what to make of it. It could have been a spoof story by the Phoenix Gazette to garner more subscribers, as skeptics and debunkers would say. But I do really feel that there is something to the legend that the Hopi and Zuni and Pueblo people have of a large underground city that's sitting there waiting for them to occupy when the earth is going to go through earth changes. I think, as you mentioned earlier in the broadcast, myths and stories do have a basis, in fact, on some level. And I really have confidence that there is some sort of facility located underneath there, and it may already be totally, explored, and it may be the basement for a new casino that's being proposed right at the confluence, right in this same area where I made my expedition in 2012. There's a proposed $2 billion project there for a casino, a tramway to go down to 4,000 feet down to the river, to the confluence, and the Navajo are proposing a casino there. And if you drill straight down, 1,000 feet, you're going to break into the underground city that allegedly has been there for tens, possibly 10 or more thousand years. So in answer to your question, yes, I'm still, I'm up at Grand Canyon every week. I look across the expanse over to that area, and I'm constantly, my wheels are spinning. And now with the drone technology that we have, I think it would be fairly easy with a funded expedition to go out there and at least properly map that section of Marble Canyon between Quadrant Rapids and the confluence, which is about a mile stretch, but I think we have it down to about a quarter mile. There's 2 sub-canyons there that I think are the most likely place for this doorway. And, of course, the main doorway would be the place of emergence, the Sipapu, which is up the Little Colorado about 2 miles. You can plainly see it from Google Earth. The entrance is filled with water right now. Good question. I really feel the Southwest has an antediluvian tunnel system that may tie lava tubes together. Mount Taylor, the caldera behind Los Alamos, the San Francisco Peaks. There's tons of lava tubes in the Southwest, the Uinta Mountains, and these may be some of, potentially some of the places where we're going to have incredible archaeological finds.
You know what it sounds like to me, and this gets to be wacky? It sounds like to me that there is so much unexplored area around there that some race of people could set up an underground city and do their thing, and we'd never know it. Despite our belief that we've explored most of the earth, the fact of the matter is that we haven't.
Yeah, but we have Dumpster, and we have the technology to map at least 1,500 to 2,000 feet into the Earth's crust.
And are we doing it?
That's a very good question, Gene.
Well, I like to raise questions that can't be answered.
Well, we are doing it, to answer your question. Allegedly, the first place that was mapped was the Giza Plateau. The second place was Yucatan, the peninsula. Third place was the Rocky Mountains.
All right, I'll grant that. By the way, we have one more segment left of the show, and maybe a few more questions from listeners of Ryan Skinner, who's written 2 more books about Skinwalker, and he's not going to quit till he gets it right, till he gets some answers. He's going to keep going there. Or until they capture him and take him to the secret underground city, wherever that is. We want to take you to plus.theparacast.com. How about that? And learn more about the Paracast Plus, our exclusive After the Paracast podcast that you get no other way. Plus.theparacast.com. Ryan Skinner's with us, with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
A little right, a little left, but always independent-minded. The Genesis Communications Network, GCN.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
It's very easy to be a criminal. All you need to burglarize a home is one simple household tool, a pair of scissors. If your home security system can be compromised by a criminal using scissors, then you're making it easy for them. Almost every home security system, even those sold by big-name companies, has a weakness: the phone line. You shell out $1,500, get locked into a long-term contract, and think you're safe. But a burglar can destroy your alarm in seconds with one snip. And when a burglar cuts your phone line, you're defenseless. Simply Safe Home Security is the smarter choice. Built by Harvard engineers, Simply Safe uses a wireless connection to call the cops. Scissors can't cut it, and that means your home stays safe. 24/7 professional monitoring is under $15 a month with no contract. Simply Safe Home Security keeps you safer than the other guys for half the cost. Protect your home with the alarm you can trust. Simply Safe. Go to simplysafedefense.com now for an exclusive 10% offer. That's simplysafedefense.com.
The Genesis Communications Network is one of America's premier broadcasters of captivating talk radio. We thank you for listening. Now, just imagine, there are thousands of people who are just as passionate about radio as you are. But what you may not realize is how easy and affordable it is to advertise with us. Radio commercials for your business could be heard on hundreds of radio stations across the U.S. every day. We can help you by creating an effective radio advertising campaign for your company. From script writing to producing your commercial, just like the one you're listening to right now. No other network provides the level of customer service we do. When it comes to radio advertising, we are your one-stop shop. And no matter how big or small your business is, we can help. Email us at advertise@gcnlive.com, and an experienced advertising executive will help you take the first step towards driving more customers to your business or website. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
Hi, Coast to Coast listeners. I'm Kay Zwirling from KSCO Radio in Santa Cruz. I'm 93 years old, and I'm a big fan of George Norrie because his topics and guests are fascinating and really get you thinking. George is just as bothered as I am by all the advertising you hear for toxic prescription drugs that make you sicker, not healthy. I prefer to give my body all 90 essential nutrients it needs for life to prevent disease, not compound it. My favorite complete supplement is Beyond Tangy Tangerine from Longevity, which I take every day along with EFA Plus and Beyond OsteoFX, which together are called the Healthy Start Pack. I recommend you go online to criticalhealthnews.com to purchase these products. That's criticalhealthnews.com or call 855-949-RADIO.
Hi, this is Nick Pope. You're listening to the Paracast.
So, until they capture you, Ryan Skinner, you're going to keep going back, huh?
It's in my blood. There's no bigger quest or mystery out there. Not just Skinwalker, but again, as Chris was alluding to, we may have and you yourself, we may have a hidden history that has been hidden from us. That's yet to be discovered. That's coexisting with us. I'm just that mystery of it all fascinates me, and I want to be a part of the discovery of it.
Chris, do we have any more questions from our listeners?
We do. We've answered, I think, a lot of them. A couple of questions have to do with why don't we have any more photographic, more video evidence. I think we've covered that subject fairly well. Unfortunately, and I've been a victim of this. I thought that I had captured the first 3D camera footage of a shadow person or a ghost, and the footage in a $22,000 brand new Panasonic 3D camera would not initialize. We did everything we could to try to pull that data out of the camera. It was unsuccessful. I've had camera batteries drain over the Bradshaw Ranch. Every battery aboard the helicopter drained. The History Channel was unable to film any footage flying over the Bradshaw Ranch. I could go down the list of examples of this type of phenomenon occurring where documentation, visual and audio documentation, has been rendered null and void. So we've covered those. Angel of Lauren Angelo, one of our friendly skeptics. We kind of answered that one. Here's one from Last Laugh, who has been a poster since May 2015. He's posted 43 messages on our forums at forum.theparacast.com, and he wants to know if there have been any further sightings of the rooftop dog man. Now, we did mention this before, but have you heard of any other occurrences of this dog man or hammerhead shark man, as you described him?
None in Fort Duchesne. I have no new stories coming out of Fort Duchesne or the Skinwalker Ranch region. However, I have several stories in my book, Tales of the Skinwalker, about a skinwalker hopping from rooftop to rooftop, or at least the person who's being accosted by the skinwalker. Yeah, for whatever reason, they seem to not only tap on the window, but they can hop right on the roof and seem to spend some time up there.
Yeah. How about any contact with insiders at the ranch or with Bass or anybody closely associated with the organization? I know this is kind of a touchy subject, but do we still have any close insider contacts at work and play?
I do, and those contacts I don't discuss at all. And I'm still fostering some active relationships inside there. The information lately hasn't been that fruitful. I mean, just not a lot of new information's come out yet.
Okay. Well, we've talked about some of the alleged, the rumors of alleged activity of a battle on the ranch or some sort of altercation. And Cosmonaut, again, that was his question. But he also wants to know if you are aware of any information that Bigelow or his people have communicated or received communications from the entities, and if so, what was communicated? Do you know of any experiments with attempts at actual direct communication?
Well, I just know the case of Eric Davis was one of the NIDS investigators at the time, had a direct contact with supposedly several of the entities. I believe told him to back off or to leave. He claims that they took a form of possession, actually. They took over his mind and communicated that message to him. And again, a lot of this behavior, I know it sounds kind of silly to conclude. It might sound better to say this is all interdimensional or aliens, but the more one researches the Islamic jinn, the more commonalities I'm finding with occurrences that are occurring on the ranch. And the jinn or genies are the closest thing we have to them is almost like a demons or demonic possession here in America. But these entities supposedly can take over your mind. They can communicate directly through you. They do appear in a mist shadow form. They were called, they were created by God before humans were, and they were called the smokeless fire, which is also known as plasma. Which is
the angels were created out of light. We were created out of clay. The jinn were created out of fire.
Right, and they inhabit these desolate, and their location where they inhabit is they inhabit these desert locations throughout the world. And Skinwalker Ranch and Bradshaw Ranch and various places in Arizona, Nevada, the Four Corners, of course, is as close as we come to these isolated and desolate desert locations, which again,
desert locations with water.